My dear children, pause for just a few minutes. Listen to the miraculous words of Lord Jesus Christ. This word today will transform your life. Morning time is not just the beginning of a day, it is the time to set the direction of your soul. When the world has not yet drowned in noise, when the mind stands quietly between yesterday and tomorrow, in that very moment, heaven's activity becomes most clear. The Bible tells us that God appointed His angels as ministering spirits. They are sent for those who are heirs of salvation. This is not imagination. This is spiritual order. And when morning time is devoted to prayer, this very order becomes active. This is not a story about 7 powerful angels to be called by name. This is a story of that heavenly work which operates by God's command. Because in the Bible, every angel works for God's glory, not for man's curiosity. In morning prayer, when a person first remembers Lord Jesus Christ, then heaven's order becomes active for their life. The first work is protection. As soon as the day begins, invisibly, a wall of defense stands erected. Many dangers come, but are not seen, because heaven has already moved ahead. The second work is direction. Many people remain confused all day because they did not begin the day with the Lord. But whoever surrenders their mind to the Lord in the morning, their steps, even unknowingly, fall in the right direction. This is no coincidence. This is heavenly guidance. The third work is protection of the mind. The battle of thoughts begins first thing in the morning. Anxiety, fear, memories. But when the morning spirit is surrendered in prayer, then a guard is placed over the mind. Negative thoughts do enter, but cannot remain. Here it is very important to understand that the prayer of angels does not mean asking them for something. Prayer means placing yourself in God's will. And when a person does this, then all of heaven's help becomes active in their life without being asked. This morning prayer is not a long mantra, it is a surrender. Even one sentence is enough if it comes from the heart, because heaven does not count words. Heaven sees the state of the mind. Why is morning prayer so powerful? Why should it not be considered ordinary? And why is heaven's activity connected to it? Among these 7 heavenly works, which work is activated next with morning prayer, and how does it transform the entire day? Now this sequence goes deeper. With morning prayer, heavenly work does not remain limited to just protection and direction. The fourth work becomes active, the lifting of burdens. Many people begin the day without understanding, as if already exhausted. The reason is not that they have done work. The reason is that they slept carrying burdens and woke carrying burdens. But when the morning heart is opened before the Lord, then invisibly that burden is removed, which the soul was carrying alone. The fifth work is protection of relationships. Most of the day's conflicts begin with words. A word spoken at the wrong time, a statement heard incompletely, a feeling misunderstood. But when the morning's first conversation is with the Lord, then gentleness descends into speech. Reaction becomes slower, and where reaction is slow, strife cannot persist. This is not magic, this is heavenly discipline. Because biblical understanding shows that where the Prince of Peace holds first place, there peace itself stands guard. The sixth work is awakening of discernment. Throughout the day, many decisions must be made, some small, some large, and every decision impacts the soul. Morning prayer sharpens discernment so that wrong choices do not seem attractive and right choices, though difficult, appear clear. Many times, a person says, I don't know why I didn't feel like doing this today, or I don't know why this step stopped today. This is the very moment where heavenly guidance is working without noise. The seventh and final work is infusion of hope. The world's news can fill the day's beginning with fear, but morning prayer awakens in the soul this remembrance that today's day need not be lived alone, that today also the Lord is on the throne. And this very hope makes the entire day bearable. Here this understanding is very necessary, that these works should not be viewed as accounting. This is a flow, a heavenly rhythm that becomes active when a person gives the Lord the first place of the day. Morning prayer is powerful because it purifies the day's first decision, and when the first decision is right, the remaining decisions also begin flowing in that same direction. This part makes clear that heavenly help is not for someone special. It is for every person who upon waking in the morning can say, today I will not walk by my own strength. How can this morning prayer be made a life habit? And why is continuity its greatest power? This question arises, How can such deep and powerful morning prayer be made a life habit? Because what happens only sometimes leaves an impression, but what happens continuously, that alone transforms life. To make morning prayer a habit, first this understanding is necessary that this is not a matter of finding time, it is a matter of setting priorities. A person does what they consider important, and what they consider important, for that time comes out on its own. Many people think that mornings are not peaceful, work starts quickly, responsibilities start coming to mind. But the truth is that peace does not come from outside, it is chosen from within. Even just a few minutes of pause is enough to activate the heavenly flow. The second secret of continuity is simplicity. Morning prayer should not become a burden of heavy words. This is not a performance, this is a relationship. Sometimes just thanksgiving, sometimes just surrender, sometimes just one sentence, sustain me today. This very simplicity keeps the soul stable. When this prayer begins happening daily, then the mind slowly begins training. It learns with whom the day should begin, and this training itself becomes inner discipline. Without force, without guilt. Here, an important thing becomes understood. The meaning of continuity is not perfection. Some days the mind will wander. Some days words will not come out. Some days attention will break. But the meaning of continuity is this: still to return. Because heaven does not seek perfection. Heaven seeks faithfulness. As this habit deepens, heavenly activity becomes more and more clear. Many times, answers begin coming without asking. Many times, peace remains without reason. And many times, dangers approach but then turn away. Because now, life begins moving in a rhythm. Morning prayer teaches life that every day is new. No matter how yesterday went, no matter how heavy last night was, in the morning, before the Lord, everything can become new. And this very new beginning keeps the soul alive. This part makes clear that powerful prayer is not a single moment, it is a journey. And this journey begins every morning with one small step. When this habit becomes part of life, then what deep changes begin appearing within? And how does the soul continue becoming stronger? Now when morning prayer becomes part of life, then such changes begin appearing within that cannot immediately be explained in words. These changes are not imposed from outside. They sprout from within, like light slowly spreading in darkness. The first deep change is that fear's grip begins loosening. What used to shake the mind before now does not affect it as much. The reason is not that problems have decreased. The reason is that the soul has recognized a safe place. And when the soul is safe, then fear does not make decisions. The second change is that reaction changes. Before, response was given immediately. Immediate anger, immediate defense. Now the mind learns to pause first. This pausing is not weakness. This is a sign of heavenly control. Because where pausing comes, there breaking stops. The third change is that the inner voice begins becoming clear. Confusion decreases. The mind begins recognizing which thought came from burden and which from peace. This is the awakening of discernment, and the awakening of discernment protects the soul. Another effect of morning prayer is that even the day's small incidents begin holding meaning. Some meeting, some sentence, some obstacle, all does not seem like coincidence, because the soul begins understanding that life does not run only on events, it runs on direction. Now this also becomes visible. Depth in relationships begins increasing. Words may become fewer, but understanding increases. And where understanding increases, strife becomes weak. This change does not happen through effort. This is the fruit of that peace that descended within in the morning. Here another deep mystery opens. When the soul becomes strong, then it can also lift others' burdens. Where before even one's own worries felt heavy, now praying for others becomes natural. And this is the very place where heavenly service begins. Morning prayer no longer remains just personal practice. It becomes a path to being a blessing for others. Without noise, without announcement, only through presence. This part shows that heavenly help is not revealed in some miraculous moment, but in daily faithfulness, and this very faithfulness continues strengthening the soul. When the soul becomes strong, how does this prayer become a shield in difficult days, and why is this shield the most reliable protection? Time comes to understanding when days become difficult, when plans break, when news is heavy, when the body tires and the mind does not cooperate. For such very days, morning prayer has become a shield. This shield is not visible from outside, but its effect is felt at every step. Difficult days first attack the mind. They raise questions in the mind. Why me? Why now? Why again and again? But the soul that has placed itself before the Lord in the morning does not drown in these questions, because within it already this remembrance lives that it is not alone. Morning prayer has taught the soul that not every battle's answer is given immediately. In some battles, remaining silent is the greatest victory, and this very silence saves the mind from breaking. In difficult days, one more thing becomes clear. Fear comes but does not stay. Worry arises but does not rule. Because in the morning, the soul has received this direction, which voice to listen to and which to let go. This shield is not made of words, it is made of trust. Trust in this, that the one who took care of the day's beginning will also take care until the day's end. And this very trust keeps the mind standing even in heavy moments. When suddenly some bad news comes, then that very soul which was calmed in the morning now does not break. It pauses before reacting, and this pausing itself saves from many wrong decisions. This is the practical form of heavenly protection. Here this also becomes visible. Difficult days come for everyone. The difference is only this: who gets crushed beneath them and who passes through them. Morning prayer gives the soul the strength to pass through. Slowly, this understanding also forms that difficult days are not punishment, they are training. And the soul that bows before the Lord every morning does not break from these trainings. It emerges stronger. At this stage, morning prayer no longer remains just peace-giving. It becomes courage-giving. Such courage that does not shout, that does not show off, but that knows how to persist. This part makes clear that heavenly help is not a subject of stories. It is seen in everyday life, in restraint received at the right time, in words stopped at the right time, in patience received at the right time. When this morning prayer becomes the foundation of life, then how does the entire life itself become prayer? And why is this the deepest blessing? This journey reaches its quiet and complete end. Here there is no loud voice, no display. Here there is only that depth which slowly descends into the soul. When morning prayer becomes the foundation of life, when every day's beginning happens by bowing before the Lord, then the entire life itself becomes prayer. Then prayer does not remain limited only to words. It is seen in walking, reflected in speaking, and manifested in decisions. Now, a person does not think differently in every circumstance. They walk in every circumstance with that very trust that was placed within them in the morning. Whether the day is simple or difficult, whether answers come or waiting is required, the inner direction does not change. In this state, the soul understands that heavenly help is not revealed in some visible miracle, but in invisible stability. Where before there was panic, now there is patience. Where before there was confusion, now there is clarity. And this very change becomes the greatest proof. Now challenges coming in life do not create fear. They only remind that the Lord has been faithful until now, and the one who has been faithful until now will make a way ahead also. This very remembrance keeps the soul stable. Morning prayer has taught the soul that every day is a gift, no matter what it is like. And when life becomes a gift, then in place of complaint, gratitude arrives. Gratitude is that soil where peace takes root deeply. Now this also becomes clear that the 7 powerful heavenly works
were not the name of separate events. They were 7 forms of one flow: protection, direction, peace, discernment, protection of relationships, patience, and hope. All these remain active when life is kept under the Lord. At this end, the most beautiful thing is this: the soul no longer seeks any special moment, because in every moment, the Lord's presence begins being felt, and where there is presence, fear cannot persist. This story ends here, but its effect continues in every morning, when some person wakes and chooses that today also I will walk not by my own strength, but by the Lord's power. This is the greatest blessing of morning prayer, that it changes not the day, but the entire life.